Hi you guys, my name is Katie Garner and I'm here today to show you some quick, easy tips on how to make your cloth diaper sewing experience more enjoyable and not make the same mistakes that I did. I'm an experienced cloth diaper sewer. I used to have my own cloth diaper company and I used to sew them myself once upon a time, and I've made hundreds of diapers in my day. And so now I've been out of the business for a long time, but I happen to be expecting another baby and I decided it would be fun to sew myself some more cloth diapers for this baby because I just really enjoy it. It's fun, and I feel like if you sew them yourself, you can just put your love into the diapers, and I just think that makes a difference. So I like to sew them myself. I'm going to show you some things that'll save you some heartache. I'm going to make this fast and easy, and I'm going to get to the point real quick. So first of all, I like to use 3/4 inch elastic. I get the white kind. You can go to Joann's or whatever fabric store near you and you'll see that they have a kind that's more of a like creamish color, and I've used that kind before and it doesn't last as long. It'll wear out over a period of time, and these ones tend to last. I've had this elastic for a long time, and I've used this elastic on diapers for other kids and they've lasted the entire 3 years of diapering. So great elastic there. I also like to use polyester thread, not cotton thread. And I learned that in the beginning because along this seam at the very edge of the diaper, sometimes it would wick through and get wet along the seam, and I believe that that was because I was using cotton thread, which is absorbent, and the polyester thread isn't. So I think this makes the difference. So I would use polyester embroidery thread for 100% polyester thread for sewing your diapers. For the inside of the diapers, I like to use a microfiber fleece. It's super soft and thin, so it's not big and bulky, and it won't pill up and get all bumpy. So that microfiber fleece is key. I don't like the suede cloth as much. I know a lot of people use suede cloth, but the suede cloth isn't stretchy. And I think stretchiness is really important in the comfort and fit of the diaper. And so I always use this microfiber fleece. Here's my machine, and I've got a walking foot on the machine. This foot will use feed dogs on top and on bottom, since your machine always has those feed dogs on the bottom there, but when you use a walking foot, it has feed dogs on the top, and so it pushes the top fabric through with the bottom fabric. So when you're using stretchy or slippery fabrics like you're doing with diapers, that foot is a lifesaver in keeping these together, because you can't pin it. Can't pin diapers. Don't ever try to pin your cloth diapers because you will put little holes in them and then they won't work. I know that they have snap presses that you can do by hand. I think that might kill me though. Holy smokes. I invested in this snap press years ago, and it was because I was doing a cloth diaper business at the time and making and selling them for money, so it made sense to get a snap press for sure. But gosh, if you can afford one, or go in with a friend on one who's also making cloth diapers or whatever. I mean, if you buy it and use it and then resell it, I don't know. It's a lifesaver. Love this thing. One thing that I would really strongly suggest when you're looking at cloth diaper patterns is to get one that has crossover tabs, meaning I can snap this onto the other tab. So you say you're out of the house. I do it when I'm in the house too because it's just nicer. But you've got this dirty diaper and you've got to carry it home, and of course you've got a wet bag to put it in because you don't want any mess getting on your stuff in your diaper bag. But you still don't want it to be messy when you take it out next time. So the easiest thing to do is fold it this way and fold it this way again, and then you can grab your tabs just like you do on disposable diapers and snap it shut, and now you have this neat little package that all is contained inside there, and you're not going to get any mess anywhere. In fact, if you forgot your wet bag and you need to throw this back in your diaper bag, you totally can. You know it's a dirty diaper because it's wadded up like this, but it's not going to come undone and it's not going to get on anything. And so that is why I really highly suggest having these crossover tabs where they can snap to each other, because if you don't have that, there's no way to fold up the diaper and keep it contained that way. So the first thing that you're gonna need to do is you're gonna need to use a pattern to cut your pieces out. Now, wherever, it doesn't matter where you got your pattern, the thing that I like to do with my pattern is, this pattern has been so used and loved, and I folded it up and shoved it in drawers for years and stuff, so it's really not in great shape right now. But I went and I just got a poster board from Walmart or wherever, and I traced my pattern onto the poster board so it's a little thicker, and then I marked where all the snaps were on the pattern, and I poked holes that are pretty wide. They're wide enough for a pen tip to fit through. And I also made marks on the edges where the elastic is, so I just cut out this little piece right here. I don't know if you can see that. Cut out a little section there. So when I trace it onto the fabric, I just trace all the way around the edge, and I do this little divot here. So I'm making a mark where the elastic stops and starts on every piece of fabric that I'm tracing. So that's easy to find later. And then once I've traced around the whole thing on the fabric, I take I use a Sharpie. I just use a regular Sharpie pen, the thin tipped Sharpie. And then while this is laying on my fabric and still in place where I just traced it, I poke my Sharpie through every single one of these little holes that mark where my snaps go. And when I lift it off, I have, let's see, I have this, oh, can you see it? Don't focus on me, focus on this. Okay, so I have all my snap spots marked on my pattern, and my places where my elastic goes are marked, and so that's already done for me. So I cut it out, and then I can do it. My next step would be to put those snaps in, and I've got all my spots marked for my snaps. You may want to, if you don't remember, see, I've got some, like these 3 right here, and then these 4 right here are all supposed to be the male side of the snap, and then all the rest of the dots are female snaps. And so you may want to use a different color if you have multiple colors of Sharpie, like maybe use purple for the female side and black for the male side or something, so that when you go to do the snaps you can remember and not put the wrong snaps in. But I'm going to show you how to remove a snap if you put the wrong snap in or make a mistake with your snaps. This is my official snap removing knife. Yep, and I get in here, and what you need to do is remove this little plastic piece in here that got smushed down, because that's what's holding the snap together. So a little bit at a time without cutting your fingers, hopefully. I kind of shave off the edges of that little thing that's holding it together. And once I've done that, I can pry it off. But sometimes I have to use my teeth. If I just bite it, there we go. Got that piece off and that piece off. Now, I can use this piece again, this female side, but I can't use the back again because obviously that's ruined. Okay, so one tip that I wanted to be sure and tell you about that you might not think of is that when you're using a snap press, I found it really helpful to use a thick needle like this. I've got, I don't know, this is one of those big needles that you might use if you were like tying a quilt. So it's nice and fat, and it's the same width pretty much as these little snap pieces that are pointy. And so I use these first to poke a hole where I want it, where I'm going to be putting my snaps. So I go through and poke these holes. Now the reason I do this, and I've tried other methods, I've tried sticking it through with my fingers first. I actually used my teeth a lot, which probably is really not good, so I decided I need to find a different solution, and that's when I found this needle and that it worked really well. So the reason that I do this is because if you don't, with this kind of fabric at least, if you don't have this snap poked through already, this back poked through, then it's going to be tricky to snap it without having it pucker. So you can see how nice and flat the fabric is around this snap. Whereas when I did my first snap, I forgot about poking holes, and what it did is it grabbed the fabric and puckered it up into the snap, and so it has this puckery look. You can see how the fabric is puckered around this one, and it'll still function fine, but it certainly doesn't look as nice. And so I like to poke those holes first, make sure that needle goes through so the fabric's not in the way when I snap it down. So you may not need to do the needle hole punch thing if you're using a solid fabric like this, but if you're doing prints, they're usually thicker, and that's when you would really need to poke those holes. Otherwise, you can try this other method of, see, this one's not poked. Let's see. So if I just gently push on it a little, I can get it to go through the fabric, and then I can snap it down. And that works with these solids. Also, it's easiest, at least with my pattern, to put all these top snaps on before you sew this PUL to anything. And that way, there's nothing in your way while you're putting these snaps on. And then the ones on the tabs, you have to wait until the very end to do, because it's the last thing you do after everything's sewn together is put those on. So they go through all layers. These ones only go through the PUL layer, so it's easier to get those done first. Okay, so now I'm gonna let you watch me sew a diaper, and I'll show you how I go about that process as well, and show you my little tips and tricks as I sew. Okay, so I'm pulling the elastic, but I'm not pulling the fabric. So I stretch the elastic as I sew, and I need to grab the fabric behind back here to help guide it through a little bit, since I'm pulling so hard on the elastic this way. I mean, I'm not pulling super hard, but I'm stretching it out to pretty much its max. And I just start zigzagging, and I make sure I stay on my seam allowance outside of this stitching right here on the outer edge. Inch or two at a time. Turn with it. I want to make sure I'm going to end where I'm supposed to, right there. And when I get to the end, I let go of, I don't stretch the elastic anymore, but I do sew a little bit back and forth and then backwards to make sure it's good and secured right there. And then, where are my scissors? I'll cut it with this. And then I'll cut my elastic. I've got a nice stretchy leg gusset there. Okay, now we need the elastic along the back. And here's my mark to begin that. A little, oops. Sewing a little forward and a little backward. Okay, now stretch the elastic. Okay, do that again. Okay, now stretch the elastic. So, stretch a little more. There's my mark. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little mark here, so I know where the end of my elastic is supposed to be. So there. And then forward and back. We can cut it. Boom. We've got elastic back here, elastic on both sides. It's beautiful. And now we can turn it right side out. I want to make sure I put my machine back to just a straight stitch because I don't want to accidentally do a zigzag, because I've done that a lot when I do my finishing stitch around the edge to make it look nice and clean. So I try to make this stitch just like 1/8 of an inch wide, just 1/8 of an inch, and then I'll go around the elastic. So I'll start forward and back a little bit, and then I'm gonna just go for it. And on the corners, you might not have this setting where you can make your needle stay down, but I do and I love it. If you don't have it automatically, then you can put it down manually before you turn it. Make sure everything's out. This foot's a little wide for that snap, but that's okay. Okay, now I can feel that my elastic is starting right here. And so I stop with my needle in, turn, come out 1/4 of an inch, or maybe 3/8 of an inch, because I'm going to sew around this elastic now, because I don't want to sew on top of the elastic. I'm going to leave space for that elastic to stretch. And I stretch it as I go, make sure it's all straight. So I'm sewing, it's a little bit wider than 1/4 of an inch because I've got 1/4 of an inch elastic in there, so making sure I give it room. I can feel the end of my elastic right here. So at the end, I'll stop, turn again with the needle down, sew to where I want on the very edge, and then I'll continue. And again, forward and back a little at the end to knot it so it doesn't come undone later. And there you have it. I have this awesome, cute diaper. There's my leg gussets. In the back. Okay, so now what's left is I've got to do snaps here. Okay, so another thing that I would tell you to do, I highly recommend, especially if you're doing this for the first time, or if you're trying a new pattern, I would highly recommend finishing an entire diaper before you do anything else, meaning cut out the pieces you need just for one diaper and go through all the steps and finish the whole thing. That way you know if it's going to turn out, you know if there's anything you would like to change along the way, or if you want to change the pattern a little, if something's not working out for you, you can make those changes before you move on and cut any more fabric. The worst thing is if you cut all your fabric, you've used all your fabric, and then you make a diaper and then you decide that you actually wanted to change the pattern, but you can't because you already cut out all your fabric. So make a whole diaper first, make sure it's going to work out the way you want, and then move on and start doing everything. Now, after you've done that one diaper, it's fastest if you do everything else like an assembly line. So you would go through all the fabrics you bought and cut out all your pieces. And then once you have everything cut out for all the diapers you're going to make, move on to the next step and do the snaps that you can on all the diapers, the first snaps that are just on the top. Do all that on every diaper before you move on to sewing the fleece to the diapers. And then you sew all the fleece to the diapers. And so you're sticking with one step until that step's done for every diaper. And that way you're not moving back and forth from the snap press to the sewing machine to the scissors, and it's a lot faster to not move from thing to thing. Just get it all done at once and then move on to the next step. And then it's super rewarding at the end because all of a sudden you've got like 24 finished diapers all at once, and that is super fun. So that's how I recommend doing it. You'll save time. Okay, I hope that was helpful for you. Those are the tips I've got. Let me know what other questions you may have in the comments, or what tip you liked the best that was most helpful to you. Also, if you have any other cloth diapering questions, I'm happy to see if I can answer them for you. So reach out to me. Have an awesome day.